An imaginary world minus the murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Introduction. Almost everybody believes that World War I began when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was killed on June 28, 1914. People think that the murder was a very big deal and that it changed the entire world. But what if the Archduke had not been killed? What if the world had never known the Great War, the world's first global conflict? What kind of world would we be living in now? What creates the tension of what might have been? History changes over time, and the world we live in depends on the results of events and decisions that contributed to our present-day world. And what if? Political implications. The beginning of the world we now live in began on June 28, 1914 in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina. The political conditions of Western Europe might have developed quite differently. In 1914, it could have happened that the tension between Austria-Hungary and Serbia might have escalated without the catalyst of an incident and led to a truly general European war between Austria-Hungary, Germany, and allies on one side, and France, Russia, England, and allies on the other. But other things might have happened also. They might have happened in another order. They might have come from other causes. It would be an entirely different world. But there was only one World War I, and this is the world we got. Economic ramifications. What would have been the economic implications for the world and for the participants if no World War I had happened in 1914? Is there a way to compare what the world was actually like for the next 20 years with what the world might have been like if the war had not interrupted the normal course of human affairs? To imagine the world of 1934 without imposing through our sense of hindsight a now almost inevitable outcome is almost too difficult to contemplate. It was an environment completely different from anything that seems remotely familiar 80 years later. But it came from the one World War I, and everything else is the world apart from World War I, social and cultural transfigurations. But what would the world of the 21st century be like if World War I had never happened? The balance of power would be entirely different. The technology would be entirely different. The tactics would be entirely different. The grand strategy would be entirely different, and the culture would be entirely different. It certainly would be different from anything we are prepared to understand, though it is interesting to think about it. Public opinion polling might have to overcome the lack of historical knowledge and the absence of understanding of the world that never was. Had Carlo Schweitzer made it in 1914 and rounded off a little bunch of gunmen? For instance, 43% of the Japanese people are still trying to make up their minds about World War II. And most think of their emperor now.